Part 4. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 31. Chapter 31 Horrified expression. System, host, don't underestimate my reminder system. If you encounter a life-threatening situation that day, you will feel that I am very important. A certain system still defended itself a little, showing that it is not so useless. Zhang Shishi frowned, her eyelids drooped slightly, and she sat there in a daze for a while. Then she raised her eyes, and her black eyes turned golden. System, you mean that I am very likely to encounter something big and lose my life, that kind of thing? Will you give me a big boost in the end and make me awesome? System. Zhang Shi, if that's really the case, I suddenly feel that you are still of some use. System, isn't this host's imagination generally good? Isn't it clear what he said before? It's just a reminder system, with no other functions. It's okay if she thinks like this, lest she still be disliked and asked to be returned. This beautiful misunderstanding will let her continue. Zhang Xiao finished communicating with the system and heard the patter of rain outside the window. He frowned slightly and went to the bathroom to take a shower and then rolled back into bed to sleep. The rain in late summer always comes fiercely, with light rain falling in the first half of the night, and then strong winds, lightning, and thunder in the second half of the night. Zhang Xiao was hiding in bed, revealing her pair of black and shiny eyes, looking out the window without blinking at the streaks of lightning splitting the sky, her body trembling slightly, as if the lightning struck her. Boom! Several shocking thunders were heard in succession. Ah! Zhang Xiao screamed and acted entirely on the instinct of his body. He opened the quilt, jumped out of the bed barefoot, rushed to the door of his room, opened the door and ran out. In the next room, Zhang Xiao opened the door and quietly closed the door with his bare feet, just like an agile cat sleeping on the big pink bed, with a little corner of the quilt covering him. Boom! Boom! There were several more thunders, and the light of lightning passed through the curtains and flashed past her eyelids. Zhang Xiaoxiu's heart was beating wildly. He curled up into a ball and rolled towards the center of the bed. When he touched someone, he arched slightly, and finally hid perfectly in someone's arms. Fifth Uncle Zhang Xiao called out tremblingly, and a tear fell on his clothes and disappeared. People like Fu Jinxiu, who are at the top of power, usually stay vigilant even when they are sleeping. But this time, he had no idea when Zhang Xiao came in or even when he lay in his arms. There was still thunder outside. Zhang Xiaoxi hugged Fu Jinxiu tightly and clutched his nightgown with her little hands, as if that was the only way to give her a sufficient sense of security. Just like that, Zhang Xiao slowly closed his eyes, breathed relaxedly, and fell asleep. Just as she relaxed into sleep, she suddenly had difficulty breathing, as if her body was pressed down by 1,000 kilograms of weight, and then her lips felt hot. Suddenly, Zhang Xiao opened his eyes. His eyes were wide open, full of fright and a horrified expression. Well. Zhang Xiao was slightly distracted, but then his mind suddenly woke up and he kicked the weakest part of the human body hard. Fifth uncle, fifth uncle. Boom. The flash of thunder and lightning illuminated the dark room in an instant. Fu Jinxiu opened his eyes, breathing heavily, frowning and long eyebrows. The weakest part of his body ached. His deep cold eyes lowered slightly, and he saw a frightened kitten. The kitten's face was pale, the corners of its mouth were cracked, and it was still slightly shaking. Trembling and crying. Thanks for the recommendation votes of Floating Clouds, Young Girl from the Ancient World, Pumpkin Cake, L, and Luo Wansu. Must ask for recommendation votes every day, little cuties, where are the book reviews collected by votes, please? End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 32. Chapter 32 scared her. Zhang Xiaoxiao looked at Fu Jinxiu with tears in his eyes, his body trembling slightly, obviously frightened by him. Had she not attacked with a clear head just now, she would not dare to imagine what would happen next tonight. Fujinexiu stared at the frightened Zhang Xiaoxi, feeling uncertain whether it was reality or a dream. Just now he thought he was dreaming. In the dream, the person he longed for was not afraid of him, but clung to him in a sweet and cute way, which made him very happy, so he went. He would have stopped if it weren't for a burst of pain from the weakest part of a human being and her faint cry. Fujinexiu closed his eyes and suddenly opened them again. Zhang was still in his arms when she was young, with her eyes red and her white lips biting. Fujinexiu's jawline tightened, and he realized that this was not a dream, that it was not his illusion just now, and that what just happened was real. Zhang Xiao was wrapped in a thin quilt and curled up in the corner of the bed. With his red eyes, he looked at Fujinexiu, who was standing at the window in pajamas and smoking for half an hour. The atmosphere in the whole room was a bit depressing, and no one spoke. Hours after all, it was Fujinexiu who spoke to break the quiet atmosphere. Zhang Xiao's wet eyelashes trembled slightly, his back shook violently, and his voice was hoarse after crying, "Uncle Wu." When Fujinexiu heard her answer, the fingers holding the cigarette suddenly tightened, his dark eyes darkened as he looked out the window, and his thin lips pursed into a straight line. His baby was really frightened. But he couldn't explain what happened, and he didn't want to explain it, because from the bottom of his heart he just wanted to have her. He even thought about how it would be if he didn't wake up, although this thought was shameless. But Zhang Xiao's eyes were red and he looked frightened. All the shameless and dirty thoughts in his mind made him feel that he was a pervert. "My door will be locked from now on, so go back," Fujinexiu said in a hoarse voice. Zhang Xiao was wrapped in a quilt and moved barefoot to the door of the room, where he stayed for a while. "Uncle Wu, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to enter your room, and I won't do it again." After saying that, there was the sound of the door opening and closing. Fujinexiu put out the cigarette with his fingertips, stared at the closed door with his deep black eyes, and frowned. Boom! The thunderous thunder outside reminded him of something. He stretched out his long legs, walked to the door and put them back again, with a gloomy look on his face. His baby is afraid of thunder, so he will appear here tonight. But after what happened just now, and he is leaving, maybe his baby will be even more afraid of him. Zhang Xiao returned to his room wrapped in quilt, his heart beating wildly, but his small face was extremely depressed. What a cheating body! I was almost played to death by her, but why I ran to the boss's room, I had no impression at all, almost. She almost got harmonized. She now seriously doubts that Miss Bayu Egwang has not completely left this body, otherwise she would not know how she would have gone to the boss's room. If this happens a few more times, she really can't bear it. The occasional stinging pain from the corner of her mouth reminds her of the big boss's domineering mouth just now that wanted to swallow her up. She, who has been single for more than 20 years, said cannot afford. Wouldn't it be nice to let her live happily in the book? Why are you doing this? Thank you, little cutie Yan Ran. I have a name that is very emotional: floating clouds, prehistoric girl, pumpkin cake, little cool girl, LZZN, a law-abiding child, let the end be the end, buona fortuna, a vigorous girl, the taste of happiness, guardian, Lu Ying's recommendation vote. Today's recommendations received a lot of votes, thank you cuties. Good night. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 33. Chapter 33. Chapter 33. Can you forgive Uncle Wu? System, come out and see if Miss Bayu Egwang has left. Zhang Xiao wanted to make sure again. System, host, I can definitely answer you, this person has left. Zhang Xiao, let's go. Why don't I have the memory of just now? Can you do it? You know what happened just now. Do you think I can still live a good life if I offend the boss? System, I can't do anything about the host, and it takes time to integrate with this body. Zhang Xiao. She was afraid that she wouldn't be able to hold on until that time. It seemed that she had to hurry up to leave, and hoped that Fu Yan could get it done quickly. System, host, I need to remind you that you will be in danger if you leave the boss. Zhang Xiao, I will be in danger only if I don't leave. System. Zhang didn't talk to it during the hour. She covered her head and continued to sleep back in her cage. There was still a thunderstorm outside, but she slept soundly. Zhang Xiao woke up again. It was already 6 o'clock in the morning. She plucked her messy hair, then got out of bed to wash up, change clothes and go downstairs to have breakfast. Xiao Xiao, why did you get up so early today? Do you want porridge or a sandwich for breakfast? Li Lanzi came out of the kitchen with milk in his hand. He was a little surprised to see Zhang Xiao. After all, he usually doesn't get up until 8 or 9 o'clock. I'll go to the kitchen to get it myself. Zhang Xiao ran into the kitchen as soon as he was taking a cigarette. He saw the neatly arranged sandwiches in the kitchen. He grabbed one and started eating. While eating, he looked at his mobile phone and occasionally recited a few sentences. It was completely immerse yourself in your own world. After breakfast, you go to school. The sudden sound made Zhang Shi almost choke to death without his sandwich. He raised his eyes slightly and saw a stern-looking Fujianxiu standing at the door of the kitchen, wearing black sportswear. He could tell at a glance that he had just exercised. When Zhang came back to his senses, he responded obediently, "Oh." Fujianxiu's eyebrows frowned slightly, and his cold, invisible eyes stared at her, seeming to be exploring something. Jiang's scalp was numb when he was stared at by the big man. He thought that he should leave here quickly. He finished the sandwich in a few seconds, took small steps, and prepared to leave from the big man. Just as she was about to pass by the boss moved slightly and blocked her path. He said in a soft tone, "Young man, please forgive Uncle Wu." After exercising, Fujianxiu's body exuded a strong smell of male hormones, which was charming and confusing. Zhang Xiao's face suddenly started to turn red. What happened last night was replayed over and over in her mind like a movie. She suddenly felt a little dry in the mouth and her heartbeat began to be irregular. "Uncle Wu, you don't have to apologize, I've already forgotten." After speaking bravely, Zhang Xiao slipped away like a little rabbit. Fujianxiu stood there, his drooped eyelids just blocking his deep black eyes, and murmured, "I forgot." If you listen carefully, you can still hear the dangerous anger in the three words. English and Foreign High School. Zhang Xiao rested his hands on the uneven bars and looked at the sky absent-mindedly. Chu Hanyu followed her in the same action and lay down opposite her, jokingly saying, "Child, your king of hell showed mercy and released you so quickly. Shouldn't you be happy?" Zhang Xiao said, "What's there to be happy about?" Even she couldn't understand the boss's operation, so he was so kind that he let her go. "Be happy when you are released. My sisters will treat you to hot pot." Chu Hanyu hooked Zhang Xiao's arm and pulled her towards the corner of the school. "Mr. Fu Bie, I forgot." Zhang Xiaozhen, "Mr. Fu Bie, then I'll kiss you until you remember it forever." Zhang Xiaotang. It's a new day, recommendation votes, collections, book reviews, come here, babies. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 34. Chapter 34. Chapter 34. He is my dad. As a good student with a good reputation, Zhang Xiaoxi said that he had never skipped class. Looking at the 3-meter-high wall, his temples felt a little painful. Chu Hanyu had already climbed over to the wall and urged, "Young kid, why are you standing there in a daze? Come up." Zhang Shi. "Yo, Zhang, you didn't know how to climb a wall when you were a kid. Do you want me to teach you? Zhang Xiao turned around, trying to figure out who had made that shaky voice. Before she could turn her head, a handsome face came up to her. Zhang Xiao, what's your expression? You don't recognize me in just a few days. Zhang Xiao looked at the boy in the baggy school uniform in front of him and frowned. Yu Yang. The boy was inexplicably relieved when he heard her calling his name. You still remember my name? Yu Yang is Yu Menya's cousin. Zhang Xiao and Yu Menya are at odds with each other. I don't know how they can still play well with his cousin, but most of the time the two of them are at odds with each other. This kind of inexplicable friendship. You are going to go there, take me with you. Having fun alone is not as good as having fun together. Yu Yang climbed up the wall in twos and twos. Zhang Shi was not ready to go out with a group of kids like them. He turned around and was about to leave. His sharp eyes saw the dean walking from the shade of a tree not far away. You two, come down quickly. Someone is coming. Chu Hanyu came down after listening to Zhang Xiaxi's words. Yu Yang didn't believe Zhang Xiaxi's words and said, Zhang Xiaxi, you have been doing this trick for how many years? Use a fresh one. Zhang Shi. Is it because Manman offended you yesterday when you didn't play with me? I apologize for her. Zhang Xiao didn't want to follow the little brat here and pulled Chu Hanyu to prepare to leave this place of right and wrong. Seeing the two of them leaving, Yu Yang immediately jumped down from the 3-meter-high wall. He stretched out his hand to hold Zhang Xiaxi. His tone was filled with anxiety. Zhang Xiao, I already told you to apologize for her, why are you leaving? Zhang Xiao looked helplessly at his restrained wrist. Yu Yang, let go. Don't let go. Let go. Don't let go. Zhang Xiao, Yu Yang, Chu Hanyu, what are you three doing here? It's class time, are you skipping class? The dean of the school shouted at the three of them with a straight face and a loud voice. 3 people. When the dean's eyes saw that Yu Yang was still holding Zhang Xiaxi, his old face darkened. Are you two in puppy love? Zhang Shi. Yu Yang, the douchebag, replied with a stern expression, Director, how did you know we were in a relationship? You have such a sharp eye. Zhang Shi. You three, follow me to the office and call your parents. Office. Teaching Director Tu Mo Yingfei educated the three, and the bitter look of his heart was not spoken to the dozens of educational experience. After that, he asked, the parents of your three are there. As soon as he finished speaking, the office door rang. Teacher, hello, I am Zhang Xiao's parent. Zhang Xiao didn't have to turn her head, she knew it was An Nangxuan by the voice, because she didn't dare to call Fujin Xiu, she didn't want to die yet. When the dean saw An Nangxuan, he pushed up his reading glasses and said, you are Zhang Xiao's classmate. An Nangxuan looked too young, so the dean, not sure if it was her brother or someone else, asked him. An Nangxuan has not answered yet. Zhang Xiao was the first to answer, Director, he is my dad. An Nangxuan. Alas, thank you for the new book. Thank you Xiao for your support. Now, you start to find a book review every day. Thank you for your recommendation votes for I have an incredibly emotional name, The Taste of Happiness, Yan Ran Little Cutie, Luo Wan Su, and Fuyun. Chapter 32 has been blocked. I will ask the editor to release it tomorrow. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 35. Chapter 35 Three Little Evil Stars. Such a young dad, the director muttered quietly. Of course, Yu Yang knew An Nangxuan, and he was not afraid of dying there. Director, you don't know, Father Zhang gave birth to Xiao Xiao when he was younger than us, so Xiao Xiao and I are not in puppy love. Director. And Nangxuan's eyes twitched. These 2 little evil stars, no, 3 little evil stars, and 1 evil heart were looking at him with golden eyes. Director, I am my uncle. When I was young his father asked me to come over when he was busy. If you have anything, please tell me. Fujinexiu, who was working, frowned as his ears itched. Ananxian explained modestly and politely, and the director didn't think much about it. He lowered his voice and said, "Classmate Zhang Xiao's uncle, I called you here today because your child fell in love early. He is now in his third year of high school. Isn't falling in love just a distraction now? Zhang Xiao's grades are pretty good, not to mention the key points in the exam. School, undergraduate college is a must. Look at her actually falling in love with a classmate who is at the bottom of the school. Isn't this self-destructive?" The director looked very stubborn and glanced at Zhang Xiaoxi. And Nangxuan suppressed a smile and listened to him seriously, thinking about what it would be like if Fu Jinexiu came to the meeting today, and he would probably imprison this girl at home. Yu Yang stood next to Zhang Xiaoxi and whispered in her ear, "Zhang Xiaoxi, think about it, why don't we confirm the news about this puppy love? Anyway, your little sweetheart Yanian has transferred to another school, so you might as well hang out with me. My young master looks so pretty, he brings out a lot of face, think about it." Zhang Xiaoxi raised her eyebrows slightly. She finally understood why Miss Baiyu Egwang was always trying to undermine each other when they got along with him. This man liked to make trouble for nothing. She had been tricked by him just now, so she would do it no matter what. It's okay to give him a gift in return and a little scare. Okay, as long as you let my fifth uncle agree, I will promise you. Uncle An happens to be here. After the Dean of Teaching has finished talking, you can follow him to find my fifth uncle. Fu Jinexiu's reputation in the two families, not to mention that Yu Yang is a junior, I am afraid that his parents will be polite when facing Fu Jinexiu, and he would not dare to go even if they gave him 100 courages. As expected, Yu Yang showed a smile that was uglier than crying. "Zhang Xiaoxiao, can we still get along happily? I don't dare to offend your fifth uncle. You don't even know that Manman was picked up by her mother this morning and taken to the ancestral hall. Let Grandma Ding personally teach her the etiquette and rules of the Fu family. You should know how powerful Grandma Ding is. Granny Ding is an elder of the Fu family. When they were young, they were all sent to learn the etiquette and rules of the Fu family with her. It can be said to be a childhood nightmare for these children. Of course, these are Baiyu Egwang's memories, and Zhang Xiaoxiao does not have them. Experienced. But I also feel that this girl Manman needs to be taken care of, so it would be good to be disciplined." Yu Yang did not act casually this time, his handsome face was serious, and he did not agree with Yu Menya's approach. "Okay, you three can go. Why didn't you tell me earlier, classmate Yu, that you and classmate Zhang are relatives? Stop joking with the teacher in the future and study hard," the dean said, and let them go. The three of them followed An Nangxuan out of the director's office. Chu Hanyu clung to An Nangxuan like a piece of candy. "And Xiaoxian, when did you come back? Why didn't you tell me? At any rate, it was you who arranged the baby to kiss me. Daughter-in-law. Thank you Ran, Chiju, and Muzining. I have a recommendation. Vote for a name that is not sentimental. An additional chapter will be added in response to your request, he. I hope to get a lot of recommendation votes, a lot of collections, and a lot of comments when I get up tomorrow morning. Love you all, good night." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 36. Chapter 36. Chapter 36. Facial twitching is not a good thing. And Nangxuan looked at the clingy man holding his arm with a headache. "Nayuniu, let go, this is still in your school, and I don't want to have a bad influence on you." Not only did Chu Hanyu not let go, but she held his arm tighter. She wanted to show her appearance to the whole school. and Xiaoxian, we have a marriage contract, it won't have any impact on me. And Nangxuan, he doesn't want to become a perverted uncle. Zhang Xiao looked at the interaction between the two, lowered his eyes and thought about the content of the book he was reading. Most of the books written about the male protagonist and the female protagonist also have subplots, but it seems that in Nangxuan and Chuhan are not included. This phrase is right. Could it be that the author hasn't written it yet? Zhang Xiaoxi, I ran away first. My mother is here. In order to avoid physical and mental harm, I ran away first. Yu Yang simply said hello to Zhang Xiaoxiao and slipped away from another place. Zhang Xiao raised his eyes and saw a woman in luxurious clothes hurriedly walking towards them with anger. Xiao Xiao, that kid in my family is a bastard. The woman saw Zhang Xiao and restrained her anger. Zhang Xiaoxiao sold someone out without hesitation. Aunt Yin, where did Yu Yang go? Yin Ranzu followed where Zhang Xiaoxiao pointed and chased in that direction with a serious expression. While Zhang Xiao was chasing after Yin Ranzu, he didn't forget to take revenge on Yu Yang. Aunt Yin, the teacher invited Yu Yang to go because he had a puppy love at school. Even if he only had one, he submitted several at the same time. The director said he would be expelled. After Zhang Xiaoxi finished speaking, as she expected, Yin Ranzu's pace of pursuit not only accelerated a little bit, but the corners of her mouth curled up happily. And Nangxuan stared at Zhang Xiaoxi with his lips twitching. This girl was indeed a master of Fu Chen's cultivation, and she was a carbon copy of him in terms of her scheming. Uncle An, are you having a stroke? The corners of your mouth are twitching. Zhang Xiao turned around and saw An Nangxuan looking at her with a twitching expression. And Nangxuan, with the attitude of a doctor in reality, Zhang Xiaoxi said kindly, Uncle An, having a twitching face is not a good thing. You should go to the hospital when you have time. Be careful of facial paralysis. You should be careful when you get older. And Nangxuan. And Nangxuan's words were not heard by Zhang Xiaoxiao, but Chu Hanyu did. Xiaolu's spotted eyes were filled with worry, and Xiaoxian, you can't have facial paralysis, that's so ugly, let's go to the hospital for a checkup. And Nangxuan's forehead veins were pulsing. Sooner or later, he would be angered to death by two little evil stars. And Nangxuan stayed at the school gate until the two young ancestors finished class because they wanted to eat hot pot. As soon as Zhang Xiaoxiao got into An Nangxuan's car, the phone rang. He pursed his lips and picked up the phone. Fifth uncle. Fu Chenxiu was sitting in the car, looking out the window at the students who occasionally passed by. His voice was a little softer, wait for me at the school gate, and I'll pick you up. Zhang Xiaoxiao didn't want to see the big boss, not at all. Uncle Wu, Uncle An, Hanyu and I have already left school. Fu Chenxiu's face darkened and his voice became colder, over there. Uncle An said he would take us to eat hot pot, and I'll be back after eating. After that, he hung up the phone. Fu Chenxiu looked at the blackened cell phone, his deep black eyes so dark that the air in the car became a bit colder. His baby is now starting to hang up on him. This realization was not good, so I immediately called An Nangxuan again, with a voice like the cold wind in December, where are you? Good morning, it's another day to ask for recommendation votes, ha ha ha, you know, okay. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 37. Chapter 37. Chapter 37. I'm afraid of accumulating food. And Nangxuan couldn't help but shudder when he heard the bone-chilling sound, Qinzai hotpot, the boss is coming. It looks like a question, but it is actually an affirmative sentence. How could Zhang Xiaoxiao not come here? As expected, I heard someone's answer. When Zhang Xiaoxiao heard the phone call between An Nangxuan and Fu Chenxiu, his whole little face was blown away. The boss was really attached to Bai Yueguang. I am afraid that only Miss Bai Yueguang could bear this kind of possessive debt. Child, can you let your fifth uncle go back? Chu Hanyu naturally heard in the car that Fu Chenexai was coming to have dinner with them, and she was afraid that she would accumulate food. Zhang Xiao gave her a look that said, "Go ahead and say it if you dare." Chu Hanyu sat back in her seat very timidly. She couldn't afford to offend Fu Chenexai. She would tremble even if she said a word to him. Hot pot restaurant. Chu Hanyu kept picking up vegetables for Zhang Xiao. "Xiao Xiao, let's eat quickly, otherwise I won't even dare to use my chopsticks when your fifth uncle comes." And Nangxuan, who was helping to peel the shrimps on the side, looked like he was crying or laughing. The two people who usually looked alike in front of him were as afraid of the boss as a mouse is when it sees a cat. "When I was young, the fresh mushroom pot here was super good. You drank it quickly. It was also embarrassing for you to eat while watching your fifth uncle's iceberg face for so many years." As soon as he finished speaking, a strong blast of cold air suddenly hit him. Chu Hanyu's body stiffened, and a chill ran down his spine. His face was pale, and he suppressed the trembling of his body, forcing a smile. "Hi, Uncle Fu." Zhang Xiao turned around and saw Fu Chenexai standing not far away. He was wearing an expensive suit and looked so out of place in a hot pot restaurant. Fu Chenexai walked towards them steadily with long legs, and naturally sat next to Zhang Xiaoxi. He glanced at Chu Hanyu coldly and said coldly, "Sit down." Chu Hanyu just spoke to the robot and immediately sat down stiffly. And Nangxuan put the peeled shrimp into the bowl of the frightened person and comforted him, "Eat it. Remember to choose a place where no one is around when you say bad things in the future." Chu Hanyu glared at him fiercely, but he did not dare to be too arrogant because of the presence of the giant Buddha. After the boss sat down, he said a few words and began to help Zhang Xiao cook the vegetables. Soon, Zhang Xiaoxiao's bowls were filled with vegetables, but Zhang Xiaoxiao had no appetite. Moreover, since the boss came, the whole atmosphere of the meal had changed. Chu Hanyu really didn't even dare to move his chopsticks. She will eat whatever and Nangxuan feeds her. Eating hot pot was lively, and the weird atmosphere made it hard to eat. Somehow, her temper got angry. She put down her chopsticks, stood up, and said in a dull voice, "Uncle Wu, let's go back. I don't want to have eaten." Fu Chenexai glanced coldly at the mostly untouched vegetables in the bowl. His handsome face was cold and tense, and the joints of the hands holding the chopsticks were protruding. His baby began to reject him and wouldn't even eat the vegetables he picked up. "Okay, let's go back." Zhang Xiaoxiao saw him speak, and his tense body relaxed. The big man's breath just now was a bit scary. Fu Chenexai stood up and Zhang Xiao was able to go out. He waited for a few seconds before the boss moved. He did not forget to say to Chu Hanyu, "Hanyu, I'm leaving first." Okay, Chu Hanyu wished that the boss would leave quickly, but he also sympathized with his friend. Such a strong uncle would scare everyone. Zhang Xiao was walking side by side with Fu Chenexai. Fu Chenexai tried to hold her hand several times, but she missed him perfectly. Chu Hanyu looked at the place with fear, "And Xiaoxian, how long do you think Uncle Fu can endure before he gives up his time?" "Thank you, Guardian, Yanzi, Clady, there is a name that is very emotional, a little bit of flowing water, Rosie, everyone is still there, stay, Dai's recommendation vote. There are also friends with tickets. Don't give your baby all, continue to ask for collection, 5-star praise, and recommend tickets. Small theater. Niu, and Xiaoxian, why can Uncle Fu endure this for so long? And Nangxuan, children, please stay out of your own business. Niu, and Xiaoxian, I'm not young anymore, I can get the certificate now. And Nangxuan, it's already time to get the certificate." End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 38. Chapter 38. Do you want me to die? And Nangxuan narrowed his eyes and listened to Chu Hanyu, and finally said helplessly, Nayuniu, don't get involved in their affairs, or I won't be able to protect you when the time comes. Chu Hanyu frowned and educated him seriously, and Xiaoxian, I am your future wife. You have to protect me, or I will file a complaint with Grandpa. I know everything about you outside. Nayuniu, our marriage doesn't count. I just treat you as my sister, and Nangsuan really had a headache. A child with barely even hair was tied together by his grandfather. Chu Hanyu lowered his eyelids to hide the disappointment in his eyes. He poked the food in the bowl with chopsticks and gave himself a few seconds to calm down. After a moment, he returned to normal. I know, it's so long-winded, I can't watch it, you middle-aged uncle, it's because the meat doesn't look good, or because I'm blind. Ananxian. Zhang Xiao walked very fast. She really didn't like being watched everywhere she went. It would make her feel like a prisoner who had lost her freedom and was imprisoned. Fu Chenxiu's face was gloomy and he followed her just one step away. He wanted her to have enough trouble today. Zhang kept walking for hours, feeling very agitated, and there was a follower behind him. Suddenly, a hand felt strong force, and she fell into a warm embrace uncontrollably. A car passed her quickly, and then there was a sound of gnashing teeth, and a voice tainted with a hint of fear rang in her ears. Walking without looking at the road, do you want me to die? Zhang Xiao leaned her face sideways against his chest, and his steady heartbeat beat into her ears like a dense drum. The rising and falling of her chest also proved how angry he was at this time. When Zhang Xiao heard him scolding him, he felt aggrieved for some reason. He leaned into someone's arms and sobbed, Uncle Wu, you are cruel to me. Fu Chenxiu's cold Adam's apple rolled slightly, and his cold face disappeared in an instant when he heard someone's cry. What was left was all tenderness. I didn't mean to hurt you. When you were young, you were the fifth uncle's life. If something happens, what do you want Uncle Wu to do? Zhang Xiaoxiu's heart beat hard, and he spoke instinctively, even in panic, Uncle Wu, even if something happens to me, you have to live well, okay? Fu Chenxiu held her hand and tightened it hard, as if he wanted to integrate her into himself. The pain was so severe that he said, it's not good. Zhang Xiaoxiu's tears fell like crazy as if she wanted no money. It was this body that was crying. Why did she still feel sad? The boss really loved the pale moonlight. Child, please don't be angry with Uncle Wu, okay? Fu Chenxiu's voice was very low and deep, tinged with a trace of grievance. I'm not angry. Zhang Xiao knew that he was apologizing for what happened last night. But you hung up on me today, you didn't eat the food I brought you, and you still didn't let me hold your hand. The boss's words were full of accusations against her. Zhang Xiao. Boss, I am not the one you raised, I was brought here through clothing, but it's a pity that she didn't dare to say it. Fifth uncle, I'm older, and you also have a fiancé. There are differences between men and women, I will be separated in the future. Zhang Xiao was particularly courageous when she said this. She knew that the boss liked Baiyu Eguang, but she didn't dare to poke him. Into window paper, after all, she still wants to be free. You can't mess with the boss. Before the boss falls in love with the heroine, she not only can't mess with the boss, but she also has to please the boss. Why? Dog life is difficult. Thank you for your recommendation. Votes for Fox has become a spirit, Shi Miao, Don't Read, don't forget, Wangju, Clady, and Fuyun. Well, if you have votes, continue to vote. I love you and good night. Small theater. Boss Fu, hang up the phone, don't eat the food I gave you, and ignore me. Woohoo, so wronged. Zhang Xiaozhen. The boss was agreed upon, but why did she feel that the person in front of her was only 3 years old? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 39. Chapter 39. Chapter 39. Do you dare? Fujianexio lifted Zhang Xiaoxi's chin, slowly opened his drooping black eyes, and looked into Zhang Xiaoxi's dark eyes. You want to break up with me? Zhang Xiao bit her lip tightly, not daring to look at her with dark eyes. In her heart, she just wanted to leave. She was not Baiyu Guang, she was herself. If she didn't dare to answer, she chose to remain silent. Het. Fujianexio's knuckles turned white as he held her chin, and his deep eyes were filled with anger. You dare? Zhang Xiao didn't know how he got back to the villa. Fujianexio's extremely dangerous words were always in his mind. You dare? She is still frightened now. She seems to have really offended the boss. But when the boss complained aggrievedly that she ignored him, why did she feel sad? It was not the body that was sad, it was her who was sad. Since she was single, she has never been in love. It's not that she doesn't talk about it. Many boys have pursued her from high school to graduate school, but she instinctively doesn't want to have a relationship. Moreover, as long as other boys have feelings for her, she will be extremely repulsive to them. To this end, she also went to the psychology department of her school. The psychology teacher said that she was not sick and asked her not to think too much about it. Zhang Xiao looked at the clock on the wall boredly. 1 o'clock. I don't know if the boss is back. Why should I worry about the boss? Zhang Xiao slapped himself, covered his head with a quilt, closed his eyes and forced himself to sleep. Whether the boss comes back has nothing to do with him. He and the boss are strangers. Zhang Xiao was hypnotizing himself. The cell phone placed under his pillow suddenly vibrated. He fumbled for it and saw the contacts displayed on it. He took a deep breath before picking it up. Uncle Wu. This is my Uncle An. Oh, Uncle An, you and Uncle Wu are together. The caller ID showed Fujianexio, and the person who answered the phone was An Nangsuan. You didn't need to think about it to know that they were together. Come to my house to pick up your fifth uncle. An Nangsuan looked at the man standing next to him holding a wine glass with a gloomy expression. Zhang Xiao raised his eyebrows and replied, I'm not going. Her answer made An Nangsuan feel a gust of cold wind floating around him, making him swallow his throat. When I was young, your fifth uncle drank, and I drank too, so I couldn't drive him back. You have a driver at home. Uncle An, don't tell me that your driver just happened to be away for something. This kind of lie can be easily seen through. Even if the driver is really not at home, you can let Uncle Wu stay at your house. Zhang Xiao breathed a sigh of relief, making An Nangsuan hold on to what he wanted to say in his throat, while the hostility of the person next to him became more and more intense, and Shen Yu's eyes darkened like a whirlpool in the deep sea. He couldn't afford to offend either of these two people. One was smarter than a monkey, and the other was more ferocious than a tiger. Under the threat of someone's gaze, he gritted his teeth and continued, when I was young, Uncle An knew that you had a quarrel with your fifth uncle. Zhang Xiao fell silent. When I was little, your fifth uncle treated you like a treasure from heaven, and you have. I know, I will come to pick up Uncle Wu. Zhang Xiao interrupted An Nangsuan and hung up the phone, his pink lips pursed into a straight line, with a complicated mood. Zhang Xiaoxi arrived at the downstairs of An Nangsuan's apartment. An Nangsuan supported the drunken and unconscious Fujianexio and stood at the entrance of the community. Zhang Xiao trotted over and smelled a strong smell of alcohol before he got close. Xiao, your fifth uncle will leave it to you. An Nangsuan threw Fujianexio to Zhang Xiaoxi and left without looking back. Zhang Xiao struggled to carry Fujianexio and called out, Fifth uncle. Fujianexio opened his eyes suddenly, then lowered his head and leaned on Zhang Xiaoxi's shoulder, with a low voice, Xiao, please don't leave Uncle Wu, okay? La, it's a new day, give me your votes, collections, and comments. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 40. Chapter 40 I am not the girl you raised. Zhang Xiaoxiu's heart throbbed hard, and he supported the drunk man and whispered, I'm not the girl you raised, I'm sorry. Someone who seemed drunk but not drunk, his body stiffened, and the arm pressing on her shoulders became a little heavier. You could see the bulging muscles, and he murmured repeatedly, don't leave Uncle Wu when you are young. Zhang Xiao sighed helplessly and helped the drunken man to the side of the road to hail a taxi. Master, Nangzi Yuan. It was very quiet in the car. Maybe he was bored while driving, so the master found something to talk about. Little girl, are you here to pick up your dad so late? Zhang Xiaoxiao took a look at the handsome face of the big man next to her. He didn't look like her father at all. Seeing that she didn't speak, the driver thought he had said something wrong, so he smiled naively, she's not your father. She's the one he's dating. Jiangxi. I have to say that I have been driving for 20 years and I have seen very few couples like you who look like husband and wife. However, your partner seems to be a bit older, so I will recognize him as your father. Girl, you do not mind. When Zhang was young, she looked a lot like the big guy. The big guy had a peerless appearance, but apart from having a better figure, she had no resemblance to him in facial features. I don't mind, Zhang Xiaoxiao answered the driver's words in a strange way. In the dark, the corner of someone's mouth moved upward slightly. Zhang spent a lot of effort to get Fu Jianxiu back to his room, helped the boss take off his shoes and coat, and covered him with a thin quilt. Zhang Xiao took a short break and sat on the edge of the bed, looking through the moonlight at the big man who had his eyes closed and fell into a deep sleep. The boss is really good looking, with long eyebrows at the temples, deep eye sockets, delicate thin lips, and skin so good that even women would be jealous. Every part of him looks like a masterpiece carefully carved by God. It's a pity that Baiyu Egguang died, otherwise the story of him and Baiyu Egguang would have been written, and I would definitely pursue the book. Zhang Xiao said to the boss in a low voice and guiltily, I'm sorry. The next day, before Zhang Xiao left home, an uninvited guest came to his house. Xiao Xiao, is your fifth uncle here? Zhou Yuling asked with a smile. Zhang Xiao was eating silently. She was not prepared to pay attention to this woman. In addition, Miss Baiyu Egguang had never given this woman a good look, so there was no need for her to be too enthusiastic. Zhou Yuling stood aside awkwardly. Seeing that she ignored her plans, she went to sit on the sofa and wait for Fu Jianxiu. She had big things to come today, and as a little girl, she had plenty of opportunities to take care of it. Fu Jianxiu ran and changed his clothes. When he went downstairs, his eyes fell on someone, and his eyes couldn't help but soften. Zhou Yuling saw Fu Jianxiu come down. She was happy and wanted to go forward. When she saw Fu Jianxiu's eyes, jealousy surged in her heart, and her sharp nails dug into her flesh. However, she endured it and walked over on high heels. Brother Fu, I've been waiting for you for a long time, why did you just come down? Fu Jianxiu glanced at Zhou Yuling coldly and said in a cold tone, what are you doing here? Brother Fu, please ask me to come to your old house to discuss marriage. The cup in Zhang Xiao's hand fell to the ground with a loud noise. Zhang Xiao gritted his teeth and controlled his body. Damn it, this body was out of control just now. Don't ruin your own good deeds. The boss wants to get married just in line with his wishes, but he must not let this body ruin it. Xiao Shi, when I marry your fifth uncle, I will have one more person to love you, Zhou Yuling said provocatively to Zhang Shishi's back. Today's recommendation votes are all gone. Let's vote, collect and be active. End of this chapter.